everyone, it's Terrence Branley with the Grow IT Podcast, and today I'm lucky to have David Wiechmann, who is the COO and co-founder of Coffee
Yep.
Tree Group, and I'm sure you'll tell us more about that. They are building and leading, transforming organizations through innovation and IT, and we're excited to have you today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about your background. Obviously we'll get to Coffee Tree Group, but maybe tell us a bit about your entrepreneurial journey as well. That's always fun to hear for me. I know you talked before we got on here and talked about being at IBM at one point. So maybe kind of give us the snapshot.
Well, I got a job with IBM because I was coaching baseball, and my neighbor said come to work for me, and so in 1997, so I worked for IBM for 16 years, all in the outsourcing or global services world, and most of that time I ran deals, so I sat with the customer on their site and then managed whatever scope of the IT that we had for that deal. So I usually sat across from the CIO's office, and let's say we had service desk and servers, and almost every deal was an infrastructure deal with maybe a little apps thrown in. But then we managed those towers for them and managed the business for IBM for that client. So that's what I did for them. In the middle of the 90s, we started sending jobs off to India right and left, and I saw what was happening in our rural areas in the U.S. And then I heard about this idea of rural outsourcing and doing things here in America in rural areas and use the labor arbitrage of places that have a lower cost of living rather than sending the jobs off to India. Hey, let's do it in the U.S. So in 2013, I went to work for a rural outsourcer. I worked for two different ones, kind of learned how to do it and how not to do it. And while I was doing that, I was working for a couple of, entrepreneurs who stereotypical, a little difficult to work with once in a while. And
Strong-headed.
I learned a lot, and I found myself in a situation where, hey, I need to do something different. I was at an age where it was hard to find a job, so I said, okay, I'm going to go do this on my own. I get outsourcing. I certainly understand how to do the rural piece of it, and I just love the idea of going and making a difference in communities and making a difference in people's lives where they could go and get a job that they could never get if we weren't doing it there. And so Coffee Tree was born. I guess I'm a reluctant entrepreneur. I wasn't the guy who, I've done this since I was 14 years old. And, I did the lawnmower stuff. I read a book in college and I realized that it was called The Gamesman. And I realized I'm not the gamesman. I'm the company man. I want to go and take something that's broken and make it better and fix it and be a part of a bigger organization, if you will. And that fit my personality better. So once I started doing this, I immediately thought, who am I going to do it with? And so Jim Wardrop was one of my clients back in the early 2000s. And I called him up, part of it to sell him, hey, come use me. And he said, hey, I'm moving back to Michigan, and I just always loved working with Jim. And so I said, well, let's do it together. And so that's how that partnership was born. And so my background was with IBM. And before that, it wasn't necessarily in technology. I sold college textbooks for a long time. And my family's had a painting business since the 30s. So I was always out doing paint jobs at night and doing whatever. Once I started working for IBM, did a lot of traveling and did a lot of that. And so now I find myself here. Coffee Tree's rocking and rolling. We're doing a lot of fun stuff. We got some significant clients that we're doing a good job with and growing. And so it's been an interesting history here.
Good. Well, we'll get to the growth parts. I love to talk that. Reluctant entrepreneur, but you had the blood in the family. So I will say that always seemed to, I do always dig on that. It's like, okay, tell me more about this, reluctant entrepreneurship. But if you had it run in the family, it runs in the blood somewhere. So that probably just caught up with you later in.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, and it's the circumstances, right? It's like, hey, if I go do this on my own, I can do it the way I want to do it. And so, I just need that first customer to get going. And I was able to find that guy, a guy who I'd actually sold college textbooks with, and he started his own custom publishing company. And when I called John up, I said, "Hey, John, I don't have a job." And he goes, "Well, do it on your own, and here I'll be your first customer." So that's how we got rolling.
And we talk about all the time. Relationships are big, right? And I think you would probably admit it. And that's you've already talked about two relationships in your key that were previous clients, and now one's a founder with you, and the other was your first client. So those probably the most important thing that you can do in a business career is develop those relationships.
Yeah, and that's our tagline. And when you think about outsourcing deals, when you have somebody invite somebody in to take over a piece of your business, there's a lot of people that hate that idea, and there's a lot of people that want you to fail because they want to be right that you shouldn't outsource this. And we do call it outsourcing. It's just we do outsourcing. It's all here in the U.S. Um, but there's a lot of people that don't want that to work out based on, people lose jobs when you outsource, and it changes the environment. And so we really live by the thing that if it's a bad deal for you or a bad deal for me, this thing is going to go awry. So it's got to be a good deal for both of us. And it's all about that relationship. And it's IT, so I'm going to mess up sometimes. Stuff is going to break, and so I need you to forgive me once in a while through this journey that we're going on. Hopefully, it won't be very often, but you got to like me enough to forgive me. If there's enough people around that don't like you, all you got to do is make one mistake and you're gone. So
Yeah. There is so much truth to that. I just love the way that you just framed that right now, right? Like, and it's true, right? I mean, it's IT. Something is going to go wrong, right? We hear so often the 99% uptime, right? And it's like, hey, there's going to be a 0.01 or there's going to be something, right? But it's like,
and they
I
don't
would
always
like
do
to,
the math on the point oh whatever and realize, oh, I'm going to be down 12 hours a year. That's a big
I wish
number.
my lottery odds were that good, right? It was that 0.001. Um, let me ask you this. You said, and I have to say, I haven't heard the term before, rural outsourcing. Obviously, I've heard it, onshore, near shore. Maybe there's just different, names for it. But maybe that's your, coin term for it. But like, I want to talk through that because I think that's important. The important parts about it are keeping jobs here in the U.S. and there are cost-effective maybe ways and ways to utilize talent that is within our great country here without feeling like you have to go overseas to find some significant cost savings. So again, I just threw a lot at you there, but is there some of that that's kind of wrapped up in that term that you call rural outsourcing?
Yeah, so the people that are interested in it are people that have a heart for our country and want to keep the jobs here. That's meaningful to them. And that's not everybody. It's somebody that we need to explain that intelligence exists in our rural areas because to a lot of people, when they hear rural, they hear dumb, right? So we got to demonstrate to them that, hey, there's all these bright people that are way underemployed and we have a way to take them and train them and you're gonna have the best workforce possible because well part of it is it's not a secret we're going to rural because I'm not competing price wise with and we try to stay at least an hour and a half from a big city so we don't compete price. So when you think about some of the lower level IT work, service desk, that app support stuff, monitoring, whether it be network or security, that monitoring stuff that the light goes off and you do what you're told, kind of things. Those are jobs that disappear very quickly offshore. They disappear very quickly in the big city because okay, now I have some experience. I'm going to go across the street and make an extra buck an hour, and so it's a constant churn, particularly in that service desk area. It's just we're constantly training people, training people. Well, in our rural areas, those people stick. That means you get to keep the knowledge. And, you should have good knowledge bases and all that, but nothing replaces a guy that's been fixing that problem for a long time and is still there to help other people. And that's really that building block of everything we do is Okay, let's get you going on the service desk. Now pick a technological area that you want to go to. Maybe you're very interested in security. Maybe you're interested in people management. Maybe you're interested in server support, whatever it is. And let's go teach you. And it was pretty heavy network after help desk, but let's go get you some certifications. Let's get you smarter about networks so that you can take that level 2 support and go. So I can move you up the chain, and as I move you up the chain, I get to charge more for you, and therefore I get to pay you more, and keep going up. So we really want to give people a career. We don't want to bring them in and just you're going to be a service desk agent for the rest of your life. Congratulations. That's not why we're doing it. So that's the rural secret sauce compared to offshore. Onshore in big cities is that we have great retention of our employees, and we make a plan for them to stick around for a long, long time.
And it sounds like a real good win-win. I mean, that's kind of what you were alluding to, what you were previously talking about with getting to a client and, say, hey, it's got to be good for you. It's got to be good for me. Right. And there's that win-win from you're going to see some cost effectiveness, some cost savings, but more importantly, you're going to see some continuity that you're not going to have if it was either offshore or closer to, like you said, a larger city, maybe on the coast where you're going to have far more competition and your turnover is going to be.
Yep. And then that next step is because you're in the U.S., people use your products. They understand. They understand how you get healthcare. They understand how you do banking. They understand how you go to a convenience store and buy things. That all works for them because they use those same services. So they have a level of intelligence about your business that if you're offshore, folks might not have. And so we always tell people from a total cost of ownership, we can do this because we can do it with less people. So we had a great example where some work was being done in India and they were using 17 people for it. And within 3 months, we were doing it with four people. Partially because of the coffee tree way is to go solve the problem, not just work the symptoms. But those folks understood that business because they purchased things that way and they could get through the stuff and get it done much quicker. So it's that knowledge retention, it's the ability to go fix the problem. It's an understanding. It's English as a first language, and all those things that you want in your service desk when they're talking to folks in the U.S.
Yeah. Okay, so you just mentioned something, the coffee trio, which we're going to dig into. I'm a big believer in getting to the root problem and fixing it, rather than what I say. Are we putting a Band-Aid on something, or have we truly gotten to what that is the root cause? And so, since it's the coffee tree way, and we're probably going to agree on this, maybe you can kind of expound a little bit on that and tell me what your thoughts and viewpoints and what the culture of coffee tree is about.
Well, technology is always changing. The jobs that people have are going to go away. They're going to be automated. So when we bring people in, we explain that to them. The winners are going to be the ones that figure out how to automate it and how to make your job go away. Because now you're going to basically get a promotion because there's going to be a more difficult job where we can charge more for you. We can pay you more. So how can you get rid of your job through automation is what we challenge everybody. If you lose your job because it's automated away, you're going to get a promotion with Coffee Tree. But the jobs are going away. So let's be the ones who figure out how to make them go away, because that's the way we can drive up that value chain. So solve the problem, not the symptom, is the mantra that we want to keep going after. The perfect help desk is the one that gets no calls. So how do we make all of them go away? Let's go fix those problems and drive down those numbers of things. So when we do contracts with people, we always tell them we don't want to do a contract with you where you pay us per call or per ticket. We want you to pay us a monthly amount that makes sense for you. And then we want to drive every possible ticket away. Our profit margins go up. You're more productive because you have more people coming in. So you're spending less while we make more, and everybody's a whole lot happier. So that's really what I mean by that coffee tree way. Go solve that problem, automate what you're doing, make it go away, and let's go take the next challenge on.
So what are those problems? What are those problems that your clients are experiencing or coming to you with, right? Because that's our job, right? Each of us, like, our clients come to us and say, help us solve the sales and marketing problems that we have, the challenges, and get us to our desired outcome. What are the problems that your clients are coming to you and asking for you to solve, whether they're known or unknown?
Well, on the simplest side, if we get a service desk and we're getting a whole bunch of password resets, that can be automated away pretty easily. It might be hard because maybe they had 3 acquisitions and they're using 6 different tools, but all those things can be fixed to the point where people want to reset their own password. They don't want the service desk to do it. So let's make that one go away. So that's on the simplest end. So now let's go to the much more difficult end of manufacturing. Um, right now, from visual inspection tools, whatever it is, a paint job's coming through, they'll have a Christmas tree with a bunch of iPhones on it looking at it, and the software knows what good is, and it looks at that paint job and says, okay, this one's good, keep going. Well, as soon as somebody bumps that Christmas tree, we're now down for an hour while we go calibrate all of those. Again, well, there's much better technology than those cameras now, and we can help you get to a place where bumping your machine isn't going to have an impact on it. Let's go to a camera that can really do it, and then let's start gathering all this data in the manufacturing plant to make everything better. So maybe a good example of that is on that assembly line. As it comes down each station, you do your job, right, and the car goes down the assembly line. But what if when the car starts and you got the frame on, that it starts deciding where it needs to go based on what the options the customer ordered, based on what stations are working right now. Something might be down. And now we put the brain in the car to decide where it needs to go to get the next thing, rather than just going through that assembly line. So that would be the other end of sophistication of the technology.
Maybe tell me a little bit about some success stories. You mentioned kind of one about the company going from 17, folks outsourced, helping them to come into you, and having, 4 of your, rural outsourced folks here in the U.S. helping them. What are some other success stories you've had, and whether they touch across, different industries, different size of businesses that you help? If you any come to mind.
Yeah. So generally, our clients are people who are willing to at least use contractors for things. So generally, they're bigger businesses. But so we have a rural delivery center in Marceline, Missouri, the hometown of Walt Disney. So if you go to Main Street USA and Disneyland, it's based off of our Main Street in Marceline, and the building that we're in is actually Coke Corner. If you ever go to Disneyland or Disney World, I think they both have Coke Corner. That's our building that we have. That's our delivery center. Um, but anyway, we do work for smaller companies that are nearby, because I have people in the delivery center, and we can send them out to do what needs to get done at some of those places. But generally, our clients are bigger companies. A lot of the work we do is with mergers and acquisitions, where you have 2 different technologies you need to bring together. So at the consulting end, we can come in and look at both environments, and then based on what makes sense. I hate the word best practices because I think everybody's unique, and the best practice for you might be something different. Maybe you invested $1 million in a certain software over the next 3 years. Well, it might not make sense to yank that out right now. Let's get that investment and consider that as we're integrating and pulling things together and creating an environment where you can drive out costs. It's business. What are we trying to do? We're trying to either drive out costs or increase revenue. So a good example there of the convenience stores is if your store is down, you're not bringing any revenue in, right? So if I have to shut off all the gas pumps because the fuel controller doesn't work, or if the site controller is broken and I got to shut the whole store because we can't take credit cards for anything, we got to hurry up and go get that fixed. So besides that delivery center work, the work that we do in the field, where we roll trucks to our clients' stores or manufacturing plants or stations or whatever it might be, we're making sure we try to fix that problem remotely so that we can get them back up and running. But if we can't, we do things that, for the big problems, we have things like forward stocking locations where I can go get those parts that I need quickly. And we position where our people work based on where our clients have a lot of things going on, a lot of stores or stations or whatever. And then we'll make sure we can get to that store quickly, and we'll sign up for it, which is kind of the unique part of Coffee Tree is we'll sign up for stuff through the service levels, and we're willing to say, hey, if we can't do it, we'll throw money back at you because we didn't get it done, but we will commit to this stuff and we'll follow through and keep it running and live and die by what we said we would do. I don't know if I got to the answer of what you asked there or not, but anyway.
I think you did. Yeah. And I think it just like best practices. I think every client has different unique problems that they're trying to solve. So, it's kind of a tough one to answer in generalities, so to speak.
But we want our customers to know we care. So that's, hey, when you call us, we care that this is broken, and we need to demonstrate that at every level that we're doing work. And we want to be the first one to put our hands up to say, we're going to go fix that. And we want to be make sure we stay until the job is done. So if it's 5:00, but it's going to take another half an hour, a Coffee Tree guy's going to stay there and get it done and get you back up and running.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about growth. We touched on the beginning of our conversation, and obviously over the almost decade that you guys have been around, you guys have gone through probably peaks, valleys, and you understand the challenges of growth. What are some of the challenges that you're facing to grow Coffee Tree?
Well, I would say the first challenge is getting that meeting. So being able to talk to people that we can really help, which that's a lot of places. And so getting our name out there, when people hear Coffee Tree, they think we sell coffee, right? Well, we don't. We drink a lot of coffee, but we do IT advisory, and then we do transformation projects and do the services behind it. So we'll go in and we'll make the pretty PowerPoint and show you what you should do, but we don't just walk out the door with it. We then sign up and say, hey, this is the return that you're going to get on this if you use us to implement it and do the work. We can do that. So the biggest problem with growth is getting those people, those decision makers, to do it. A lot of lower level IT people, they have a budget. I got to have a budget. So they want to talk about, okay, I have this security software. I want to get rid of it. I want you to implement the new stuff. And those are dollars we have. And so often what we do is we really want to have the bigger picture of not just, we'll do that, but we'd much rather come in and make a bigger difference and bring in a technology that's really going to make a difference for the company from a business perspective, rather than just working and yanking in and out those things. So sometimes I think we overwhelm people a little bit with, here's what you can do. We get a little too excited about what we can fix and what we can do. And the manufacturing world is a really fun place to be right now because the changes are just legion. There's so many things coming out that are going to make manufacturing so much better and so much easier. It used to be.
Let's talk about those. I'm excited to talk about this. That's kind of being a transition, whether it be towards AI, which I have a feeling this is probably going to get a touch on a little bit about it. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of the trends in AI, and especially if it's in manufacturing and what you're seeing out there.
Well, in the past, operational technology guys hated the informational technology guys, right? We're down here actually doing the work, and you guys are up in that office, and you're forcing stuff on us, and it doesn't work. And so what's happening with the software technologies and AI is that operational technology and informational technology have to work together. It's no longer us and them. It's got to. So bringing those two cultures together in large companies is very difficult. But that's where this thing is going. Different things we're seeing. Wi-Fi in a plant maybe isn't the right answer anymore. When I need to retool, Wi-Fi doesn't go around corners and things. Cellular might be a better answer, and using cellular technologies for your plant so that when you do retool, you don't need to worry about it anymore because The connectivity is in every corner, and you can go after it and get it. But bringing that informational and operational technologies together is something we're spending a lot of time on. Getting the information to the managers is another piece that's changing. In the past, you walk out on the plant floor, you talk to Bob and Joe and figure out, okay, where are we struggling, what's going on. But to be able to take data from machines and give that manager the ability to know what's going on that plant floor without having to go talk to everybody is the big change that's taking place. So a simple stamping machine, really no technology. It goes in, it bangs away and bangs away. Eventually it breaks, right? Well, let's say we knew that type of stamping machine will do, 47,000 parts before it's out of tolerance. But we don't know that because it's just going up and down, right? So now if we can add software to that and count the number or measure if anything's getting out of whack and take it out of the line and replace it before it breaks so the line never shuts down. So taking all these tools that don't have technology and aren't giving us information and applying technology to them so we know that rivet gun, the 401,000 rivet it puts in is probably not going to work. So we can go and take all those things out before, that predictive analytics, right, for those machines. But now we got a ton of information, right? Now every machine is sending us information. So how do we disseminate that information and make it valuable for that manager? That's what Coffee Tree can do. So let's go get all these machines to give you information. And then once they give you information, let's get a way for you to make good decisions.
And I assume when you're talking about that, you're talking about like IoT and IoT, which is, I think, the industrial Internet of Things. And you're talking about product lifecycle management, those fancy stuff, the terminology, but that's kind of what the guts of what you're referring to, right? And more importantly, without those fancy terms, the fact that we're going to be able to create data that's going to be applicable to your business and help you become more efficient and more effective, right? Let's create it first, and then we're going to show you how to utilize it to do those things.
So keep using what you're using. Let's just go apply some technology to it so that you can be smarter as you're going through this.
I like it. All right. What are some other whether it's trends, AI, LLM, if we without getting too deep into the terminology?
Well, within that environment now, it's pulling information from disparate sources, right, to make a good decision. So if your system knows that after you're done with this particular run of something, the next run is going to be different in certain ways, and AI can go out and look at that and say, hey, don't forget you got this coming up here next time, so reconfigure this in a different way. Look at this in a different way. When it comes to sales and marketing, right? You know that there's technologies that are coming down the pike that are going to become available to you to use. And AI, if you've given it the right information, it can grab that information and say, hey, as you're selling this, don't forget that soon you're going to be able to have this to make it better. So it widens your vision of the whole plant. And what that stamping machine guy knows is different than the manager of the group that's going to take that next part and put it together. And with his information along with that, he can tell, hey, we need to stamp these a little bit different going forward, these parts, because they're going to be usable for more than one application or something like that. So that's that AI piece, is just tying together disparate places. That information is all there, but there's nobody that sees that. And now the AI can go in and say, hey, what about this?
Yeah. It's going to be amazing. I don't know how deep you've been getting into it. It's just amazing to see how rapidly it's been changing and improving. And I guess one of the things I'd follow up with on you is what are the conversations that you're having with clients right now, which revolves around that and implementing it in to their systems and processes.
Well, and it really depends on what level that you're talking to, right? So, I talked to some potential clients here this week where a problem is on its way, but it's not to them yet. And, they didn't want to hear about it. It's like, well, right now it still works. So, kind of leave us alone. So there's some of that going on that you're going to have a problem, but if you don't want to face it right now, there's nothing I can do about it to help you. But it's really about that ITOT thing isn't just a manufacturing thing. That's in almost every business where the people out doing the work, whether it's in a store, if I'm selling shoes, this is what I'm worried about, and how the shoe is made isn't really that big of a concern to me. But there's things that can affect. So you got to pull it together. Those IT guys, the people who are stocking the shelves also go and check you out, and that POS system has to work. When I hit that button, the price has to come up, and it has to be taxed correctly. And there's just a ton of complications that come in with that. So how do we help make things easier, and just as important, how do we figure out how to fix them quickly? How do we create redundancy so that your store doesn't go down? There's really cool technologies right now in small forms for. There's one company we're working with. It's basically a data center in a backpack. It's all backed up, everything's there, and now we can start applying that small form. We don't need to have a big data center room or something like that. We can put some of this stuff out on the plant floor. We can put some of this stuff in stores underneath the counter, and now you have the redundancy that you need so that your store doesn't go down. And when that part breaks, we can come in and fix it in the next couple of days rather than having to rush over there and charge you big bucks to hurry up and get it done because your store is done. So that redundancy piece and the ability to make smaller companies have that ability to avoid going down that's probably the conversation we're having more than anything else. How do we keep you up and running no matter what at a price that makes sense to you?
Well, the data center in the backpack, and with your IBM career, and I think of, we always talk about Watson and the big room of the servers, right? And you probably have that data center in the backpack now that is probably 100x more powerful than those IBM servers that were taking up huge amounts of space, right? I just, as we're talking through that, unfortunately, I'm old enough to remember back early in my career when that existed. So,
And that's kind of that movement from being hardware defined. I buy a piece of hardware and I put it in, and when it breaks, I replace that piece of hardware. As more of that becomes software defined, and now I can put a blade in a rack that does it, and then I can put another blade in that does the same thing, and it can fail over in case one of them breaks, and now I can fix it remotely. For networks, the software defined WANs, and then that software defined idea just keeps going to all the parts. So pretty soon you're putting in regular servers, not something special to do that particular act with switching. It's the same thing. How do I create that? Well, I just want to buy the same switch everywhere and put it in, and that's fine. Now we can do it with the software and change it so that it does the things it needs to do for you. And plus, I can put two of them in, so if it breaks, I don't have to rush over there. The other one will take over.
you got the redundancy in place. Well, look, David, as we look to wrap up here, can you walk us through what it looks like when a new client starts to work with you, or maybe even before they become a client, and maybe they're still talking the conversations with you as a prospect and looking to enlist your services. But can you walk us through the path of what that typically looks like, or can look like? I hate to use typically, but what can it look like?
Well, I think the thing that we've had a lot of success with is once we do get that meeting and are talking to people is to challenge them and ask them what's the most difficult thing you have going on right now. And we're talking about service desk and all the things that kind of grow from that within the IT world. There's usually something hanging out there that this thing just keeps coming back and festering. So what is that thing? Let me go and see if I can fix it. And if we do a good job for you, let's keep talking. And so we've had some success with that. Like when one client had trouble with some of their car wash technology, and so he said, "Give us those tickets." And so we went and just threw ourselves into that particular problem, and we went and got those fixed. So then we come back and say, "Hey, here's what we did," and we get to know their folks a little bit better, that where they're frustrated with stuff. Hey, we need this, we need that. If we could do this, it would get us up and running. Kind of that people on the ground doing the work, along with the people up at the IT world, to say, hey, here's some place that we can really make a difference. So, that's the best way that we can sell is to convince somebody to just give us your hardest problem and let us go see if we can make a difference with it. Um, you know, we try all the things everybody tries with social media, and trying to get people don't call us for that doesn't happen very often. It's usually through relationships. So you started this out talking about relationships, and we just continue to create more relationships and build off of that. And the way we grow is to make sure we keep the clients we have. In this business, you got to do a good job, or you're not going to keep them, and then you're going to spend a lot of time selling just to replace them. So we got to keep the clients we have. So we got to do a great job, and then we keep leveraging those relationships into more business. And I guess part of the growth is we got big enough that we have more relationships, and more of that is happening. But I would love to sell more. That's for
Well,
sure.
I'll tell you what, there's only one way to sell more, and that's to have more relationships. And there's only one way to have more relationships, and that's to start off with conversations like this. And so if someone wants to do that and wants to learn more about Coffee Tree and wants to start a relationship with you or vice versa, what's a good way them to follow you? I know you're on LinkedIn. Learn more about Coffee Tree Group.
Yep. www.coffeetreegroup.com is our website, and we would love to help anybody out. The biggest joy for me is creating jobs in rural America. And so if people have a heart for that at all and would love to be a part of that, we can do that. We love having people come to our delivery center. It's a 2-hour drive from the Kansas City airport and a 3-hour drive from the St. Louis airport. So you got to dedicate a little bit of time, but we love having people come out and check out what we're doing. We love to have our clients there and work with the people who are doing work for them and making a difference for them. We love making a difference in Marceline, where, when we first went there was one restaurant, now there's 5. It's just a great story to be able to tell. And so we love doing that. So if people want to be a part of that, the more work we can find, the more money we can save you, or the more revenue we can find to drive up, we'll make sure that we're driving value for you.
Well, as a kid who grew up in Southern California in the 70s and 80s, I have very fond memories of going often to Disneyland. That was back when it was far more affordable than it is today. And as you described Main Street, I was literally picturing in my head.
Yes.
I remember exactly. I remember that Coca-Cola building. And so as you said, the Marceline, I was like, I'm going to look that up, right? I'm going to go back in time. And then, we've been up in Boise, Idaho here for the last 6 years, and I understand and appreciate the value for rural Americans and keeping jobs onshore. So to kind of tie all of that in one fell loop here, I'm grateful that you came on and told the Coffee Tree story today.
Yeah. And Marceline has the Walt Disney Museum there. Kay runs it. Kay was good friends with one of Walt's daughters, and it's a cool place to go. So come see us all in Marceline.
I love it. Well, I appreciate your time today. I've enjoyed this one for sure. And I'm going to be I'm going to go down the Google rabbit hole here
There
pretty
you go.
shortly. Thanks, David. Appreciate you joining me.
All right. Thank you. Bye.